Okay, so the StarCraft 2 2025 World Cup is taking place next week. And they've just released the bracket. So, StarCraft 2 was announced as the part of the lineup on April 4th, right? It's a dual tournament format. All matches are best of 3, and the top 2 players advance to the group stage. The group stage uses a double elimination bracket. Opening matches are best of 3. All the other matches are best of 5. Top 4 players of each group advance to the playoffs. And then we have a single elimination playoffs bracket. Okay. $200,000 first place prize, $100,000 second, third is 60, fourth is 40. So we are actually doing a third place match. A lot of tournaments don't do third place matches anymore. I quite like it. I don't mind it at all. Actually, 5th to 8th is 30 grand. Dude, all of these are really nice. Even if you're absolute dead last, just for qualifying, you already get 7.5. That's not bad. Ooh, look at this. The counter over here. 6 days and 20 hours, baby. So I will be one of the commentators for this particular event. This was announced a couple days ago. Oh, yeah, we're already in the list. Pretty cool. It's gonna be fun. I'm flying out on Sunday. So I'll be casting. I know there's going to be an A stream and a B stream too, so we'll get a little bit of stuff. Did I already get you? I do have my blazer, yes. Very important, man. Who's that Simon guy? I know, my mom didn't actually call me Lowko. My last name is not actually television. I know. Pretty crazy. All right, so let's have a look. They just announced the brackets. I haven't really had an in-depth look at them myself yet. So yeah, there was a little bit of, I didn't really talk about this too much, but Firefly, one of the players that was qualified for this event, got disqualified due to match fixing. These are no longer allegations. These have been straight up confirmed. I don't really want to get into the drama. Hate match fixing. But yeah, cheaters got punished, so that's good. Lancer instead makes it on out of that region. So the way that people qualify for this event are basically by doing really well throughout the rest of the season. So the only person that made it here from last year is Clem, who is, well, at least as of me making this, the current world champion of StarCraft 2. And he got a free seat going into this particular EWC. However, we have Kieran Zaun from the Korea qualifiers. We have Raynor and Sero right here from the Europe qualifiers. Trigger from the Americas. The Asian qualifiers was Firefly, got replaced. Firefly is now banned from all competition, and Lancer is taking his seat instead. Then we have Hero, we've got Rogue from winning the GSLs respectively. Then we have from DreamHack Dallas, Classic, Maru, Shin, Solar. From the BGE Stara Zagora tournament, that one was won by Showtime, so he gets, well actually it wasn't won by Showtime. It's, yeah, look at this, he got 4th, but the other players ahead of him were already qualified. So the BGE actually had a seat available, and then, well, it moved on to him. Match fixing, yeah, so basically the way that this works, for those of you not in the know, there are people that bet on sporting events, right? And that is no different for StarCraft 2 either. And if you pay off a certain player to purposefully lose games, aka rake the competition, obviously you make the entire betting thing a little bit easier for yourself. There have been instances like this in the past, most notably Life. This was like back in 2014 or so. It's been a long time. That pretty much collapsed the entirety of the Korean esports at the time, like for StarCraft 2, and obviously it kind of like rebuilt, but never up to the previous level, and a lot of people got banned at the time. We had things as well in StarCraft 1, most notably like 2008 or so with Savior. 2009 maybe, I'm not exactly sure. And like that also really hurt the esport a lot. And now, I mean, we have the same thing again in the Asian region, in China in particular. So earlier this year, like the Chinese region was super active in StarCraft 2, okay? Like there were a lot of tournaments that were organized by the Chinese, especially like the SC Boy Corp. Like they just did a ton of stuff. And then obviously Oliveira announced his retirement from the game. So Oliveira is no longer around, and obviously Oliveira previous world champion, by far the best player from China. Him retiring already made people a little bit hesitant to continue doing StarCraft 2. And now this happened as well. So I've got a feeling a lot of like the people that do, you know, organized tournaments from China, at least the people that fund it, yeah, they're probably, I don't know. It's honestly really shitty. It's honestly really shitty. There's a lot of information about it available if you want to look into it, but I mostly, though, want to talk about who is going to be winning what. We can actually kind of guess how this is going to go. This is not easy, though. I will be using a League Elec as well, because a lot of these matches are going to be very small. So the way that this works, so the group stage will have a double elimination format. The play-in stage will as well. The top 2 players of the play-in stage advance to the group stage. So some of these players, these guys right over here, only 2 of them will actually move on to Group A and Group B. So let's try and figure out who of these 4 is most likely to, well, move to Group A or to Group B. Now, it doesn't say how it exactly is going to work, but we can kind of make some guesstimations. So the first matchup, and this is a best of 3, is Estrella versus Bjorn. I find that one immediately very difficult to predict. Aligalek kind of keeps track of recent form and like current results and all the rest of it. I find this one very difficult. Historical score? Yeah, okay. Historical score is in favor of Bjorn. But apparently, I'm actually going to hide the chat for a moment. Sorry, guys. Apparently, Estrella has been doing better lately, so this is like a 54-45. That's already tricky, man. I don't really see a clear favorite here. I am thinking, though, Estrella can win this one. It's not really an upset. I really don't think it is. I'm going to say Estrella. I'm going to say Estrella wins over Bjorn, which means that Bjorn would drop down to the lower bracket. Lambo versus Hero Marine. I think that one is a little bit more straightforward. Hero Marine has been more impressive as of late. I don't know, by the way, if I'm going to be filling out every single one of these, because it's going to be kind of a pain if I do. Yeah, so advantage here for Hero Marine at about 71%. So I'm going to say Hero Marine wins this one, which means that we have Lambo versus Bjorn in the lower bracket, and both of these would be qualifying matches. So, actually, no, these would not be qualifying matches. Hold up. So, Estrella versus Hero Marine would be a qualifying match. Difficult one. Okay. So, according to a League Elec, it is an advantage for Estrella. And I guess it's safe to assume if Estrella can beat Bjorn, he can also beat Hero Marine. So I'm going to say Estrella is the first player to qualify. And I'm going to make the assumption, so this is an assumption because it doesn't say it over here, but I'm going to make the assumption he'll be moving on to Group A. Just because otherwise I can't do this prediction. Bjorn versus Lambo, I think would be Bjorn. Then we get Bjorn versus Hero Marine, which in my mind would also be Bjorn. Lambo is really good, though, and Hero Marine is really good, too, so not easy to predict, but yeah. I think Bjorn and Estrella will make it out of this section. So I'm going to say Bjorn moves on to Group B, and Estrella moves on to Group A. Okay, so let's see. What would we end up with Group A? So the way that Group A works... So we have the group stage, double elimination, opening matches are best of 5, and then all other matches are best of... opening matches are best of 3, and then all other matches are best of 5. Top 4 players move on out of each group to the playoffs. So, that would mean we end up with, according to my predictions, Clem versus Estrella, Solar versus Zaun, Shin versus Rainer, Trigger versus Maru. Okay, so I am going to say that Clem wins over Estrella. I'm going to say Solar versus Zaun. Whew, Solar versus Zaun. I think Zaun, right? Difficult, though. Not that obvious. These are also best of 3s, so in general, kind of tricky. Alugalek has a slight advantage for Solar. Statistically speaking, yeah, Zaun is better, though, in my mind. But, I mean, it's close. I'm going to say Zaun. Shin versus Raynor. All of this is really hard, man. Shin versus Raynor? I'm gonna say Raynor because I'm a Raynor fanboy. A little bit. But it's Zerg versus Zerg. Both of these guys are kind of, you know, wild and wacky. Yeah, I think Raynor is the more likely candidate there, but I mean, it's ZVZ. I'm gonna say Raynor, though. Trigger versus Maru. I think Trigger is good. I don't think Maru has been as strong over, like, the last, I don't know, year or so, but I mean, it's still freaking Maru. So, I think Maru Trigger is very likely a large advantage for Maru. Yeah, large advantage for Maru at 76%. Not impossible, though, for our Canadian hero. Okay, so then in the upper bracket, we would end up with Clem versus Zaun. We would end up with Clem versus Zaun. Then in the lower bracket, we would end up with Shin versus Trigger. Okay, so these would be qualifying matches already. Clem versus Zaun. I'm going to say Clem wins that. So Clem moves on to the playoffs. Raynor versus Maru. I mean, that is a banger. Best of 5 Raynor versus Maru is a really good match. Historically, I think Maru. My brain says my brain says Maru, but my heart says Raynor. It would be an epic match regardless. I find Maru kind of a wild card, to be honest. It's very difficult for me to predict. I'm gonna say Raynor. Fuck it. I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna say Raynor wins that one. Estrella versus Solar. So these would be lower bracket. So the winner of this will play against Zaun. The winner of that will play against Maru. Simp. Hey, these are my predictions, okay? Okay, so we have in the lower bracket over here, Estrella Solar. I'm gonna say Solar there, which means that we get Solar versus Zaun. And then over here, we have Shin versus Trigger. I'm gonna say Shin over there, because that just makes more sense. So these would be 2 more qualification matches. And in my mind, it would then be Zaun and Maru moving on. So I'm saying out of Group A, we end up with Clem, Raynor, Zaun, Maru. That seems very reasonable to me. It would mean that we end up losing, according to my predictions, Estrella, Solar, Shin, and Trigger. Which I think is not unheard of, but I mean, I could be 100% wrong. Very difficult to say. Okay, so these would make it onto the playoffs. We'll move that a little bit further down because we also have Group B. And then from the playoffs, I assume that Bjorn, or from the early, the play-in stage over here, I'm going to make the assumption Bjorn moves on. So the matches in here would become Hero versus Lancer, Cure Showtime, Classic Rogue, Serral Bjorn. Woo! All of these are pretty hot. Hero, it wins that for sure. Means that Lancer drops down. I mean, it's PvP, but Hero is Hero. Cure versus Showtime. Should be Cure. I don't think it's that clear cut. Maybe the stats will lie to me, though, because Cure is an absolute monster. Showtime obviously is very good, but Cure is... Oh, wow! Look at that! Slight advantage for Showtime, according to Aligalek. Best of 3. Showtime Cure. I don't see it. Maybe. I would love to see it. I'm gonna say Cure, which means that this match becomes Lancer Showtime. Classic versus Rogue? Woo! Classic versus Rogue. I don't like Rogue's Zerg versus Protoss very much. And I think Classic... Can I say this? I think Classic has been low-key the best Protoss in the world over like the last month. He's been very good. Hey, LRS.
I believe in you, Showtime, Die Mauer.
Die Mauer? It's D Mauer. Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you very much, LRS. I'm thinking Classic wins that. So that means Rogue drops down over here, and then Serral versus Bjorn. I mean, I don't think we really have to guess who wins that one. Maybe. It's possible, but... Okay, so that would mean the qualification matches in this particular bracket would become Hero Cure, Classic Serral. Now, Serral and Classic recently played against each other, and Classic actually won. I can imagine, though, Serral is pissed. ZVP is kind of flimsy for Zerg right now, and Classic is really strong, but I think across the board... Serral will be the favorite now. Basically, we haven't seen anything from Serral in like a month. He's just put his head down and he's practicing. So I'm going to say Serral. Hero versus Cure. So that would mean Serral, by the way, moves on to the playoffs as well, in my mind. Hero versus Cure. I'm going to say Hero. So Hero moves on. Okay, then we would get... Lancer versus Showtime. That's going to be Showtime. Lancer eliminated. Rogue versus Bjorn. I'm going to say Rogue. I like Rogue's Zerg versus Terran. So that would mean the winners of those would play against the losers of them. So we'd play Showtime Cure. And we would play Classic Rogue. I may be making a couple of mistakes here. Anyways. Aligalek, Rogue versus Bjorn. Yeah, we can have a look. Absolutely. Rogue, Bjorn. Slight advantage for Bjorn. Oh, actually bigger than I would have imagined. 64% in favor of Bjorn. Really? Okay, yeah, so score versus each other, it's like 49-51. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I think Classic wins against Rogue. So Rogue eliminated. Showtime versus Cure. I mean, we already had that one earlier, and I said Cure was gonna win. But I now believe that after the first best-of-3 loss, with this particular best-of-5 rematch, Showtime, Demauer, comes in clutch and takes it 3-1 against Cure. So that means Showtime moves on over here. Boom, Showtime top 8, EWC. Let's go. Could be Cure, though. Probably is, but I'm going to say Showtime. Okay. So that means that we have these 8 players in the playoffs. Now, I can't possibly know how they're going to be doing seating for this particular section. So let's try and make a top 4 out of these players. No, I don't think... So these aren't the matchups. These aren't the matchups. Let's talk about this, right? So, who would be most likely to not lose against anybody here? I think Serral is most likely to not get destroyed by anybody. Just with a very slim margin, though, because Sero is a monster, but obviously Zerk is kind of a little flimsy right now. I think Clem and Sero are like, you know, if we were to make an S, like a tier list, I would put Clem and Sero in S tier. As the only 2 players. A tier out of these guys. I say Hero, Classic, Rainer, Maru. I mean, obviously, all these players are insane, right? Like, none of these are weak. Now, what's really funny about this whole list is that even though I kind of feel like Protoss is ever so slightly overtuned at the moment, I still don't predict Protoss is gonna win the EWC. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I still think Clem and Sero are better. I still think they're just too good, man. Now, Sero and Clem have played against each other a bunch of times over the last year, and it's extremely close. I think we could very easily have, like, classic, I don't know, classic Hero Grand Finals, classic Maru Grand Finals. Sero and Clem might never face against each other. I find Hero a very difficult player to predict, even though he's an absolute monster on a good day. Sometimes he just like plays a bit derpy and he uses the all army hotkey way too much and you kind of look silly. It is a difficult call to make, but honestly, this is going to be really fun. You don't think Hero will get it to the finals? Yeah, maybe. I feel like Classic is the more reliable choice. Rainer's performance is also a little up and down. Maru's performance is a bit up and down. I think Showtime and Zaun are both really good. I just don't know if they're like Clem and Sero's levels of good. I think the top player for Protoss is probably Classic at the moment. A lot of people will say Hero or MaxSpecs. MaxSpecs doesn't play in this tournament. I think MaxSpecs is an absolute beast and the only one that really plays like Clem and Sero. But, you know, he doesn't go to these type of tournaments, so whatever. You think Clem is cracked in Zerg versus Terran, but TVT is his weakness? So Clem no longer plays Terran versus Terran. Clem no longer plays Terran versus Terran, he only plays Protoss versus Terran. And you're allowed to race switch in this event. If you look at like his results, this is actually kind of crazy. If you look at Clem's results over the last year, how do we do this? Match history after, can we have a look? After like April or like January 1st, opponents race Terran. Look, he doesn't play Terran. These are all him playing Protoss. He's played a couple of games here and there against people that he is clearly favored against, like Tafo, Defi, Mocha. I'm not even really familiar with them. And he's winning the vast majority of his games with it. And some of these are really impressive games, man. Like, look at this. 4-2 against Cure. He did apparently lose against Bjorn over here, but he won against Bjorn in this one. 2-0 against Bjorn, 2-0 against Spirit, 3-2 against Bjorn over here in favor of Bjorn. But, like, these are impressive games. 2-0 against Cure. It is going to be interesting to see Clem off-racing. If he faces a Terran, as far as I understand, the rules will permit him to off-race. And I think we're much more likely to see him playing Protoss against a Terran than he would play a Terran versus Terran. I'm sure he's capable of playing TVT. I would love to see Clem's Protoss versus Maru's Terran. That would be really fun. That sounds like a very spicy game. Klemdo over here in this particular section of the bracket is not going up against a single Terran, unless we assume Bjorn makes it over here to this spot. Honestly, if you do a best of 3 though, Clem's Protoss versus Bjorn's Terran, I mean, that's... It's really difficult to predict. I feel like in general, the skill level is really close. Like, my predictions here, I think they're pretty accurate, but I could be 100% wrong, you know? Like, all of this could be absolutely terrible. Like, the margins are very slim. A lot of it also comes down to, like, I don't know, who has the better bracket? Like, who has slept better over the last couple of days? Who feels more comfortable? It's a lot of little things, man, that can make all the difference. Cyril, apparently, though, he's in the same time zone as this tournament takes place. I didn't realize this, but Finland and Riyadh, Finland and Saudi Arabia are in the exact same time zone. OP? No jet lag necessary? Whereas, like, the Chinese player over here, Lancer, or any of the Koreans, they will have to fly, like, what, like, maybe 5-6 time zones? I don't know how many. But that is an actual, like, significant buff. I don't know when the players are flying out. I hope for their sake they're flying out a good couple days early, because being jet lagged and sleep deprived is the absolute worst. Especially with margins as thin as they are right now at the highest level. I think it's going to be tough, but... Anyways, man, it's going to be fun. So I am predicting a rematch. I am predicting a rematch from last year's Grand Finals. Last year's Grand Finals was Cero versus Clem. At the time, it was a 5-0 win for Clem, which is unheard of. I don't think Cero has ever lost that many games back to back to back to back. I'm gonna say this year, Cero clutches it. It's such a boring prediction to say Cyril's gonna win. There's a very real shot he gets eliminated in, like, the quarterfinals. But I'm gonna say Cyril, 3 times world champion of StarCraft 2, secures himself as the greatest StarCraft 2 player ever. He already is considered to be the GOAT by pretty much everybody out there, except a couple of non-believers. That would 100% secure it. But on the other end, I would love it if Protoss ended up winning it. Like, Protoss has been winning a ton of events lately, after not really winning anything for a long time. And I'm gonna say, if I had to pick one Protoss, I'm gonna say Classic takes it down. A lot of people will say Hero. I believe in Classic. Classic has been on a bit of a tear lately. And his games are, like, a lot more stable. I think Hero's highs are way higher than Classic's highs. So it kind of depends on what hero we're gonna see. But I think Classic is more likely to have, like, a good performance or a great performance. As far as Terrans go, I think a lot of people will say Maru. I'm gonna say Clem. Without a shadow of a doubt, really. Yeah. Clem is, in my mind, far and away the best Terran in the world right now. He has been slightly emotional in some of the games we've seen him play over the last, like, couple months. He seems kind of tilted. I don't know if he's, like, a little bit burned out or just frustrated in general. I'm not sure what's happening there. But, I mean, when Clem plays well, when he gets the ball rolling, he is really, really, really dangerous. Yeah. So, Cero, Clem, Classic. That's what I'm saying. I think it's fair.